So we have the sixth installment of what I would consider the greatest slasher franchise of all time, and that is the film we are looking over today. Hello everyone, my name is Aaron James. This is a review of the movie Scream 6, written by James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick, directed by Matt Bertinelli Olpin and Tyler Gillette. This is the quartet that wrote and directed Scream 2021, or Scream 5 if you'd like to call it that. The film stars Melissa Barrera, Hayden Panettiere, Jenna Ortega, Mason Gooding, Courtney Cox, Jasmine Savoy Brown, and Josh Segarra, amongst a few others, but I'm not sure if they shared that in marketing who these characters are, so I won't say who they are. Oh, and we have Roger L. Jackson coming back to voice Ghostface. Love it, and hopefully he'll be around for it at least another 4 or 5 movies, so we can get him a good 10. He needs more recognition. I think Jackson needs more recognition and more appreciation for the tone and character personality he's able to bring out just through voice acting. Scream, when it came out in 1996, was not maybe the first slasher or horror film to be satirical, but probably the first successful one, referencing prior horror films, making rules, discussing the rules of a horror movie when it comes to survival, recognizing tropes and highlighting those tropes, pointing them out, and just showing how ridiculous the genre can be when telling certain stories, but falling into those same traps because I see that in the real world we may not take a lot of those ideas or tropes seriously. Comedic commentary was presented while still being a scary film within itself. And that's something that not many movies were able to do prior or even after the Scream franchise started. Unlike other franchises that tried to reboot their IP and relied on requels and forgetting, let's say, other films that were considered failures or not good, Scream wore its history proudly, not retconning any prior films, any prior stories, and stuck to them continuously, and it didn't try to bounce off of Scream 2 and act like 3 and 4 never happened. Scream from 2022 wore that history proudly and continued, and it was called Scream instead of Scream 5 because it was playing on the trope that a lot of reboots try to do, and naming the movie the same as the first one while still being a sequel, and that's why it's called a requel, and trying to more so bring the new audience, younger crowd into this world, and relying on the idea that we do not need to retell this story, but we're going to pretend to be loyal to the history. I do feel with this requel, particularly when Scream came back last year in 2022, younger audiences may not appreciate the satire and joking and poking fun at horror movies the way many other people did when Scream in 1996 came out, just because so many films try to play off of that and steal that blueprint within the 2000s and 2010s. They try to highlight the issues and flaws in horror films and the whole genre, and many other movies and franchises try to poke holes at the horror genre and just as a whole how flawed horror films can be, and make jokes about who gets to live, who gets to die. And with Scream already had done that. If you watch it now, I think you would see it as a ripoff of those things and maybe even corny. And Craven clearly attempted to try this satirical film approach previously, particularly in Freddy films, more specifically in New Nightmare that came out 2 years before Scream in 1996. So the quartet, Busick, Vanderbilt, Bertinelli, Olpin, and Gillette, again, they did last year's Scream, and I guess rushing production for whatever reason and trying to write and film a direct sequel to it and release it the very following year. I appreciate that. I applaud the attempt and the approach, but this was just all right. Now, what I really appreciate about the quartet, Bertinelli, Olpin, Gillette, Vanderbilt, and Busick, is that they were fans of the original Scream franchise, fans of Wes Craven, and really into horror films. So having a fan come in to tell a story and be loyal to the original is pretty good, and something that I think a lot of people in the industry should consider and think about doing, as long as the person's not trying to be a bit crazy and do too many fan stories.
This quartet, coming off of the success of Scream 2022, which I think was a pretty good requel, and coming and rushing production, I feel rushing production for whatever reason, for writing and filming this sequel and releasing it within a year. I don't know why they did that. Reason being that this movie does have so many flaws that it's hard for me to ignore them, and kind of took me out, even though I was pretty excited for this. There's too much quipping, and it built up very well and moved really fast in the first half, and then it felt like it just hit a wall and went to a very slow pace from then on until you hit the last 15 minutes of the film. Still, to its core, I had fun with the movie. It was Scream to the core. It was over the top. It was ridiculous. It was goofy. They had the monologue like they do in all Scream movies about the rules of survival in horror films, and it was fun. Granted, there were some characters in this movie that took a lot of damage, and then you think, oh, they got to be dead right now. But nope, they're still breathing, talking. They might be down, but I'm just there like, I don't know how you survive that. I would say Scream 3 is still at the bottom of my list of Scream movies. Scream 4 and Scream 6 might be tied out. Scream 4 might barely be above Scream 6, but I'd say they tied out probably because this Scream being more modern, and I like it. And I like the chances they took bringing Scream or Ghostface to Manhattan, like Jason Takes Manhattan, and a lot of the scenes, right, the especially in the first half of the movie, were fun and cool and interesting, and I thought it was an interesting approach trying to do something new with it. One thing that was annoying was how much they tried to emphasize how different this Scream is, this Ghostface is, and kind of talking to the audience that, hey, this is newer, hey, this is an evolved, this is an innovative approach to this story that you may love. It got annoying at a certain point. My top 3 Scream films are Scream 1996, followed by Scream 2022, and then Scream 2. I might change my mind with Scream 2 and Scream 2022, but at the moment Scream 2022 is above Scream 2, again, maybe because it's more modern, and I really appreciated how they approached it, and it felt that they were trying to be very loyal to the franchise and not try to make their own thing. That is pretty much all I got. I wonder what you guys thought about the film. I think this is probably the first movie I was really excited about in 2023. Until next time, y'all take care of each other, check up on one another, check up on yourself, and remember, potential has no limit.